This is Popping the Bubbl with hosts Sandra Ponce de Leon and Pete A. Turner.
Hi, this is Vanessa, CEO of AnyContext, and you're listening to Popping the Bubbl.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, Vanessa. Vanessa Camones.
Sandra. Hey, Sandra Ponce de Leon.
Great to have you,
Thank you
here. We've known each other for so long.
I
and
know.
I've always been a big fan, admire
Thank
you
you
throughout the years.
Thank you.
Your career just has skyrocketed, and I've watched you be this amazing boss lady and also inspiration to Latinas. And so I'd love to just, before we get into what AnyContext is about, but I'd love to hear just about your story. How did you get to where you are? How did you decide to create and launch your own agency?
We're going to dig into some skeletons in the closet today, aren't we? Okay. Well, let's start from the beginning. I fell into sort of media and communications when I was in college. So I had been writing for the school paper, the Santa Clara. I went to Santa Clara University, so I was a local girl.
Nice.
And from there, I loved writing, and I realized that I had a passion for writing and talking to people and learning their stories and really wanting to understand, you know, what they did in the community is like something that they'd done changed their lives. So over time, the more interviews I did for the school paper, I ended up becoming the editor for the features and entertainment section at the Santa Clara. And so that made me continue to love writing and explore sort of what I was doing with my life at the time with school. I started off as pre-law.
Wow.
So I was supposed to be a lawyer. Could you imagine that?
Crazy.
You know me.
You would have been a good lawyer.
I don't know. I mean,
I think so.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
I think I like what I do now. But who knows, right? Yes. Who knows? But while I was going to school and doing this wonderful sort of hobby, right, that I'd throw myself into, I really started wanting to have a much wider and broader education and more liberal arts and taking more classes that seemed interesting to me. And with a pre-law program, you really couldn't do that at Santa Clara at the time. So I decided to leave that as a major and as a focus and sort of turn my energies into the communication side. So I went to the mass communications department and decided to enroll in that school. And that turned into really the perfect choice for me at the time because I became a guinea pig for their internship opportunities. And they were doing an internship program. And I ended up going to a whole bunch of really cool different companies and learning about what they were doing. So I had random jobs like working for the Santa Clara County Fair. Okay. And I actually booked and sank for the Santa Clara County Fair.
Wow. Well, that was
but
fun.
I didn't, but they weren't like known at the time, right? Like at all.
Wow.
And so by the time the Santa Clara County Fair came on, You're Tearing Up My Heart was like big and national, and like all the little girls were like dying over them, right? Including myself, right? Who the hell is Justin Timberlake and who are these NSYNC guys? And so sad story is we booked them. They tried to get out of the contract. No joke. They actually did. And we did not allow them to. The Santa Clara was like, there's no way. It's going to cost you too much. Like, we'll sue you, like blah, blah, blah. So they ended up actually performing. And sad to say, they were little douches.
Oh, no.
They were. They totally were.
Oh,
they were so thinking they were like the hot everything, you know. And I was doing a lot of interviews and back and forths because I was the media coordinator for the Hispanic and Latin TV as well because I speak Spanish. And I had done another internship for Telemundo for Channel 48.
How cool is that?
Yeah. So I was doing a lot of like broadcast, right? And a lot of like in front of the camera kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, is this what I'm going to do? But I wasn't really feeling it. I went back to the internship, team and program and said, I'm looking for something new now. Like, what can I do? And then all of a sudden, this was my junior year. I landed at an agency called Citygate Cunningham. And Citygate Cunningham, at the time it was Cunningham Communications. And I didn't know this until I started there, but Andy Cunningham was actually the person that ran PR for Apple, right? When Apple came back and was massive, right? And so she had started her agency. And at that time, it was a very large agency, really focused on consumer internet and really, all up and coming in technologies, like Real Networks was one of their clients, and Charles Schwab online. So when online trading was coming in, you saw me here, this little intern. I'd take the train from Santa Clara Station. I'd go all the way up, walk up Page Hill Road, walk all of Page Hill from the California station, and just walk and look at all of the VC firms that I had no idea what they were, right? I had no clue. I'm like, oh, HP and what's this and what's that, right? Because I was so focused on my other side of my classes, which were all about interviewing people and bands and doing more of an entertainment feature thing, that I didn't really understand this other world I was just about to explore. And so I loved it. I went in and I would do a ton of research. I had a ton of research I had to do, learn media, learn how to use, at the time they were using Novell, GroupWise. So I had to learn GroupWise. So it was amazing.
It sounds like an incredible program.
It was an incredible program at Santa Clara. And I was one of the first, students to be in that program. And that just catapulted me into what I do today.
That's
right.
So cool.
From that agency, I took away some really great learning experience of just how to be on time and talk to people and work with people that are older than me and understand these different things about technology and media. And I remember, at the time reading the Industry Standard and Red Herring and Upside magazine. And I was like, oh, what is all of this? And it was amazing. And I loved it. And I loved writing. And I just started developing crushes on reporters. And so when I went to my second agency, which was NRW. And NRW at the time when I graduated, I went in to work with Pixar Animation Studio. So they were my first client out of college. And I did sit in meetings with Steve Jobs.
Wow.
While I was at Pixar. And what was crazy about that was, I had no idea, right, really, that from this one internship, it would take me all the way to being able to figure out what I wanted to do for the rest of my life and really help develop this just sort of vocational experience in a way, this thing that I just ended up loving doing. And after Citygate, I worked with Citygate Cunningham. I worked with Lucent Technologies and Creative Labs as well. So through my senior year and that summer, I kept working with a lot of new companies in PR roles and marketing. And then fast forward to today, I'm still kind of not doing the same thing per se because I'm not an intern and I have my own company, but throughout the years, I've always worked with different clients in the startup world, and I've worked in-house at Cisco doing content, and I really was a really interesting intersection of the web at my age because it was really starting to grow. It was taking a life of its form with new technologies like podcasting, right? In the day.
Right.
And blogging.
Right.
And all those platforms. And so I remember, the first time I was using LiveJournal and I was like, oh, I'm going to be an emo teen or an emo, mid-20-year-old and pretend I can be on LiveJournal. But it just, and that from there, you're utilizing all these different social networks like Tribe and Friendster and MySpace and Facebook. And so when you start at the beginning, when you're young, today, I look at those platforms and I look at how people communicate and I see how it's made such an impact in our lives. And it's just amazing. And so I think that was also one of the things that really made me want to do something on my own and figure out how to explore different communications methods, between people and companies and customers and products, and figure out what that journey looks like.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I think it's just about just a good story, a good storytelling process. So
yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah,
I had no idea your background, and it's just so cool to hear how you've come up and you have such a rich historical context to what's actually happened and what's shaped the technologies that we're all using today. And that is, hugely valuable to the companies that you're working with.
And it's crazy, right? Because my dad's an engineer. So I did have a terminal growing up at home. And, I remember him letting me have the password and going into, Usenets and user groups and tapping along and knowing how to manage DOS commands. So when I went into college and we had our first email system which was Oscar at Santa Clara at the time, I used to hang out in the library with people and help them set up their email accounts because it was really, I thought it was just cool. And I was also really into gaming and I was into playing MUDs at the time. And this is
a true Latina geek.
I am a true Latina geek and people don't know that about me unless you really know my background. You would never know that I used to sit till 2:00 in the morning playing muds with my friends from Hawaii. And like, I actually met a guy through one that I ended up dating in college.
Wow.
Yeah. And he went to Berkeley, and I spent like, I think half of my junior year at Berkeley. Almost transferred there, actually.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's just kind of crazy, right? Because you don't think that the things that you are doing for fun or that you're really enjoying are going to end up being what makes you who you are and what you do professionally.
Right.
So you kind of just I ended up following, I think, my passion, which was communicating with people, getting to know them, telling their story, and caring just about keeping those relationships just alive and keeping them sustained over the years, right? Because I think that's a hard thing to do when you meet so many people, when you work with so many different companies and you work with so many different journalists. I mean, I think going from PR into content into marketing branding, which is what I do now, right, has been a really interesting sort of transition for me over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have experience touching so many different facets of marketing, because marketing is this huge encompassing category that includes PR, includes branding, includes advertising, and you've been able to touch every single one of those different sectors. Yeah.
And I think it's been something that I always tell people is, you want to do things that maybe you're uncomfortable, like to be uncomfortable doing certain things.
That's great advice.
Right? Because that's the only way you might be able to learn how to fall into that next thing, right?
Yeah.
Like I had no idea what I was doing when I first went into that internship at Cunningham. And there were all these it was crazy, right? Walking into this amazing office in Palo Alto. And I'm like sitting at my own little desk with my computer. And I'm like trying to figure out what the hell these email groups are, reading these magazines that I do not know half the terminology. I was very uncomfortable. It was very intimidating to be in a position where I'm like, WTF, right? I need to learn how to communicate with this format. I need to understand what all this is about. And it made me hungry for more knowledge.
Yeah.
Right. It made me want to learn more, and it challenged me. I always embrace what I don't know. Or if I'm afraid of it, I'll be like, I'm going to learn that, because I think it just, I don't know, it can lead into something like really wonderful. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're talking about cross-cultural interaction and the willingness to immerse yourself in it, the desire to withstand that. The uncertainty means you're doing it. You're out of your cultural bubble, your cultural norm, your vocabulary norm, and you're growing. What things now are you doing that push you to that area?
Wow, that's a really good question. What things now am I doing? Well, okay, I think the thing that for me pushed me was my interaction with startups and how much I learned from how challenging the people that are in the space are to work with.
Are we talking founders, CTOs?
All of the above. VCs.
Right.
All of them. That entire ecosystem is incredibly difficult because they don't know the value of marketing. And the ones that do are gems, like a dime a dozen. And that when they do find you or you do find them, you stick to each other. You're like, holy grail, we found each other. And I think that has been why I had so much success with my agency, because I ended up finding, or they found me, or we found each other. And it became this really wonderful relationship. With some of them, it was really hard because they don't want to listen to you. They think they know more than you do. They don't trust you. And I think trust is the most important thing that you can build when you're in the services business, no matter what it is, right? Like you are essentially, they're coming to me and being like, okay, Vanessa, market my company.
Yeah.
Right? My company, my baby. No, they're not going to just be giving that away. Right. So it takes a lot of, I think, nurturing. It takes a lot of just helping them understand the process, helping them understand the value, and understanding where their fears are and their goals. And for me, that ended up being like, I really need to take interest in their business, right? So it became from being like, oh, I need to launch you, to I care for your business. Like I want your business to do well. I want to meet your goals and your objectives and make your board happy.
Right.
How do we do that? Right? So they give you more money in the next round so that you can get sold, so you can get acquired, so you can do a merger, right? And so that type of thinking, I think, is what led to us having a lot of really, long-term clients, returning clients, people that have gained the trust. I've gained their trust over the years because, and you know how it is in this town, in this business, it's a very small place.
Very small.
Very small. And so when people hurt you or people do awful things to you, the world is small.
Yep.
And people know. And so I've learned that, I've learned that from people that have worked with me, or people that I've seen have awful situations with their co-founders, or, you see it all, right? You see people be reckless. You see people be selfish. You see people be greedy. And you also see people be incredibly human, right? And thoughtful and kind and passionate, right? So it's like this crazy, like, telenovela.
I love it.
Right? But with geeks. Right? And
so this building of trust, I mean, people say that all the time. And as a fellow mass comm degree holder, people also say, oh, communication is important. But that's where the depth of knowledge stops, right? So like you talked a little bit about what it is to develop trust with these people, especially when you don't speak the same language.
Totally.
A CTO talking to you, marketing wise, and you're the interloper, you're the person that's like, I can help you. What are some of the tools that you use to talk to these folks? I mean, a CTO is a different person than a marketer.
100%.
So how do you build trust?
Different. You build trust by caring about what they're building. Asking questions, being like, I don't know what you do. Help me understand what you do. Why is this valuable? And what's so interesting about this tech? Like, what is it? What do you do? What is the secret sauce? And so I think when they feel like you really care about it, that you're invested in really understanding, because to me, to be a really good, true marketer, you have to get into the product. You have to know its ins and outs.
Absolutely.
You have to use it. For some of my clients have been very, like, I'm not a developer. Okay. Like, I am not a engineer. I am not a software engineer. I am none of those things, but I care to listen to them and what they do and what is important to them. And then almost be like a translator, a scribe, if you will, right? Yeah. Between what those things that are important to them, and turn that into a new language where everybody can understand and really help them leverage that so that they can build a bigger community and they can build a following for what it is, their product and services, right? So it's weird because I'm not this engineer, but I understand their technology, right? Because I've seen their case studies. I've seen how customers use it. I take that very seriously, especially as someone that's been a publicist for so many years, that I actually need to go and I need to spread the gospel, right? I'm like a preacher, right? I mean, it really, at the end of the day, that's kind of who we are. And, it's sad because a lot of PR people get such a bad rap for that. And those are the people that don't care about the product. It's just a job. They're just getting a paycheck. So there's a different kinds of PR people.
Sure.
I'm not that kind of PR person. Right.
And then there's also a lot of the flip side of the founders or startups that think if we build it, they will come.
No, God, they're not going to come.
We have a great product. People are just going to flock to us. They're going to find us.
Maybe 5 of them might come.
Right?
And across the board, if that is the mantra, you may succeed, but you have no control over your success.
That's exactly right.
There's a lot of ways to skin a cat, and that is a way. But like you said, if you have a marketer that's passionate about your product and your success, now you have someone that's on board that can evangelize.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, okay, so I've been obsessed with period pieces lately. Okay. So like I've been binging on like historical period pieces.
Philippa Gregory is really great.
Oh my God. I've been watching, the Medici. I've been watching, The Crown. Right now I'm into watching Victoria. And I like to see all of these different ways that the court, right, back in the day was held and the kinds of people that they had around them. And there was always someone that was translating and helping others understand what the hell the king wanted, what the hell the queen wanted. It was like, there's always that person, that scribe, that translator, right? And so I think that that's never going to go away. I just think it's a matter of what we talk about is just going to change, right? And that's always been the case with, for example, what I do with my agency, right? We change what we do and we change with what the market demands need, right?
So let's talk about your agency, your new agency, AnyContext.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
So AnyContext has been something that's been brewing in my mind, in the back of my head for about 2.5 years now. I just didn't know when it would happen. I was afraid, right? So when I've had the mix agency for so many years, right? I started the agency in 2007 and closing shop in 2017, right? Is pretty much a 10-year run, right? And so that for me, like not knowing what I wanted to do next was really hard. And I was really afraid of it. And I was like, I know that I don't want to be seen as a PR agency because the mix agency, you immediately know. So that was
more focused on PR.
PR. Right. Yeah. So we were very much focused on PR, developer relations. We're doing a lot more work on content strategy, but a lot of people just didn't understand that because they thought we were mostly PR. And that was a branding issue, right? And I had also wanted to move into more of the digital platforms, right? And start doing a lot more campaign management, digital marketing, really working with clients to help, translate again what they do in a multi-channel approach, right? Which is now sort of what we do. So we're looking at campaigns. We do a lot more branding. We're managing sort of the entire ecosystem, their entire marketing ecosystem, right? So PR, social, influencer, digital content. And if they want to, have website development done and they want to have, design done, we have that in-house, right? We have those people in-house. Whereas when I had TMA, we didn't have those roles. Like I didn't have designers. I didn't have devs, right? And now we do. And so it's a very different kind of model because now we can be creative. We can be a lot more creative than we used to have to be, right? And so I think that's been and will continue to be. And the other thing, I think it's going to be the next trend. And what you see in marketing is the agency model is going to be rethought because agencies can't really support the clients in everything that the client need anymore.
Well, it's really hard for agencies, for example, to have a PR agency just focused on the PR and the messaging, but that needs to also be in alignment with the brand, the voice, what 100%. You put out there in, advertising in terms of trying to acquire new customers. So it's nice that you have it all, under one roof. Yeah.
But one of the things that, we still don't, and that we'll always look for support and work with companies that do, and we'll create an ecosystem of partnerships with certain specific companies that's their bread and butter when it's demand gen, right? When it's SEO, that they know and that they can work with us and integrate with us very easily because we can project manage those campaigns, right? We can project manage those things with those teams and then give the entire results to the client because data doesn't lie, right? And what a lot of brands are still trying to figure out is how do they actually measure content and how do they really measure successful content and then tie all that back in with their initiatives that they're doing with demand, with ad buys, with, paid, organic, all of that.
Right.
And all those things need to be working more symbiotically, right?
Absolutely.
They need to be working more hand in hand.
Essentially, you guys are acting as an outsourced CMO, it seems.
That's exactly right.
Right.
So in a way, we oversee these things, or we're your partner, right? At the end of, we want to be your partner, like in any context, right? Which is why the name is really interesting and powerful. And I think that that's what it means. It means that any context that you need, any way that we can come and problem solve, like a high scale, high end, marketing consultancy. Like you have Deloitte, right? You have all of these other guys. Why not marketing? There's now marketing stacks. There's marketing tech. There's ad tech. All of those things. It's going to be impossible for so many of these other companies to know, right? Like what to use and have they used it? And oh my gosh, should we try it? But with our partners, right? And the people that we work with, 9 times out of 10, we'll be able to say, yeah, we've worked with that vendor. Or yes, we have an agency partner that does and can give you great results. And I think that's the sort of bridge that's missing between what brands are looking for to stay at the cutting edge that agencies just don't offer.
Right.
Because they become very dependent on one single kind of platform or vendor. They're not just, trying everything out, right? Which you need to. Because if you work in a startup, you know that maybe 2 years from now, that Cision platform you really knew and loved, that's just going to be gone,
well,
right?
Yeah, technology is changing so quickly, and it's even more so fast-paced.
Or Radiant 6, right? I mean, they were gone. Or Buddy Media, they were gone. And now what's next, right? So that's how I think about marketing now today as well, is because you do not know how long you also have until that platform and that wonderful tech that you put into your marketing stack will be gone tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And will you be happy with who takes over? Right. That's kind of what's happening now. And I just think that you're going to start seeing a lot more of this is what I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's fascinating.
Absolutely. I mean, I'd love to talk, if you can, or if you can talk about them or not, it's like, what's exciting you right now, the clients that you're working with? Can you talk about them?
I do. I can. I'm going to tell you, one of the clients that we're working with is up in Seattle, and their name is Socrata, and they're doing data democratization. For governments and cities. And so the things that they're really enabling cities to do is basically look at their data, take that data and create programs out of it that are saving companies money, that are building better resources for them, that are giving, constituents and people what they want about like services and protection and security and safety, right? Because they work with all the local governments. And so it's what's interesting with them is looking at the political landscape that we're in today. I think that localization is going to become even more important now than ever. Right. Because at the federal government, we are being killed, right? And we are being, not that I want to get political and talk politics.
Well, what you're doing is, for me, this company activating grassroots.
Yes. Yeah. And so
that's great.
And I think that they're a real interesting company to watch. I'm really excited about what they're doing. They have a really cool user conference that they're doing in March in DC. So I'll be going to that and learning about what all these amazing cities are doing with transportation and data and what they're doing with financial data and what they're doing with government, like all of these cool things that impact us every day and are going to impact us even more now because of the administration that we have in place today.
Yeah. So. I sit on a transportation committee for the county. Okay. And so you talking about this resonates with me. One thing is governments are notorious for build it and they will come.
Yep.
So they'll put bike racks out that no one ever puts a bike rack in. They don't care because it was part of the plan.
Yep.
And so this kind of data is something that I'm always screaming for. Like, give me some contextualized data so we can make a better decision.
That's right.
And the other thing is it's driven by consultants who want to build projects. Yep. And mayors want to have projects because they, quote unquote, beautify the area. But what do the people want? So they'll do these things where, like, we're going to make it quote unquote safer to walk across the street in this 50-year-old neighborhood. So we're going to make the sidewalks jut out further and change traffic patterns.
Exactly.
And people freak out. They're like, we didn't want this.
Nobody likes change.
Right. Nobody likes change.
Nobody likes change.
And then is the change valuable? I'll say this all the time. Like, you're making an assumption that this is safer, as in right now it's somehow unsafe. When was the last person harmed crossing this intersection?
That's right.
And if there's no data, then let's find a spot where there actually is incidences where, if you have only a certain amount of money, let's make a better decision. When they want to make the wine trail join into the Bay Trail so that in theory you could ride your bike out to Napa and everything. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
But people live along that trail. And they don't have a bunch of drunks riding their 10 speeds, right? So, and that matters. That data is
totally
critical,
matters.
Right?
Totally matters.
Don't drink and bicycle ride.
They can give you DUIs for that.
Sure, sure. But that data would allow. Like, we just don't have that data, like they have ways to get some limited things, but all like this Fitbit stuff that can be processed to show you how people move and everything. We just try to have these nebulous goals. Like, we'd like the people to use bicycles and walking more, but that's all we really know. And there isn't access to doubt. You have to do an environmental study, but you don't have to do a social study.
Totally.
So it's fascinating to hear that even things like that, there is a market for that, for sure.
Huge market. And they're doing so many interesting things with data and, website optimization for these cities and governments too, to let people know, this is what's going on. This is where budgets are going. This is how, you can utilize. It's amazing, right? Data is amazing.
Yeah. I mean,
you can really do so much with it, but when you actually turn it into action.
Right.
Right.
Well, I think that data is really the big story almost of 2017.
Yeah.
And then, we've been having a lot of conversations with regards to artificial intelligence.
Oh, one of my favorite topics.
I love it.
Absolutely.
So I think that that's super fascinating. And we're actually getting to a place where these companies can leverage both the AI and the data in ways that are actionable for these types of initiatives.
Yeah. And mean, I think you're going to start seeing a lot more concern also over workforce automation and what that's going to do to us as people that have jobs and and our knowledge market. So one of the clients we worked with last year was the Stanford Center on Longevity.
Oh,
and
cool.
Yeah. And so the reports that they come out with and the information that they come out with in regards to what is happening with the elderly stage population and what we are going to have to be doing in the next 10 years to help that population, and that we're not prepared for the boomers coming on and then for the millennials who are going to just live a lot longer than any of us expected is crazy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just data in and of itself of people's longevity and how long they live, the fact that we're able to cure so many more diseases. It's like, we're all going to live longer and we're not going to have jobs and our economy doesn't sustain us. So where are we going to go live?
Well, if we are going to live longer, it doesn't mean that we're going to live at the same level of health and activity. So there's going to be a lot more caring for people that are older.
There
is. You're going to be able to survive with maladies you can have HIV now and survive indefinitely like anybody else. So,
yes, which is amazing, right? Imagine when we get to that place with cancer.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're going to have more people surviving.
Exactly.
They're going to survive longer and need more care. I mean, when you're 100 years old, it doesn't mean that you're going to be active.
No.
It means that you're, going to be present and someone's going to, so there's going to be a lot of care type things.
And so with them, to your point, with the care type things, what we worked with them on was a design challenge for students and design students, grad students that could develop interesting technologies and services for people, that are elderly, that are going to need these kinds of support systems in those next 10, 20, 30 years, right? From financial services to, physical activity and motivation, and then to just happiness and wellness, right? Yeah. Because that is also a big part of the whole piece. And so their challenge was, looking at these 3 pillars and thinking of companies, and students that would design around these concepts and how to best serve that community with new technologies and services that they would come up with and design.
Very
and
cool.
Present. Yeah.
What was the winner? Was there a winner?
So the winner, yes. So the winner last year is a company, 2 students from San Francisco State.
Okay.
Right. And they came up with a smart cart. So it was a very cool, beautiful looking little push cart that was really easy to fold for an elderly person. You could have its little basket.
Oh, cool.
You can pull it upstairs really easily. And the design was beautiful. It just, the pitch these guys did, everything was amazing. They actually design for me now too.
Oh, nice. Yes. So is that product now commercialized in market or in process
because they're kind of still working on it, but they're also still designing and being the amazing, product designers and, the whole bit that they are. That were then and now. But you just saw so many cool entries of these kids that had thought of like all kinds of amazing things. Like there was another girl from China. She had designed this incredible shower, like this new kind of shower and tub that you could actually connect to your current shower and then fold it. It was crazy. Like the stuff that they came up with was really cool. And so getting to work with stuff like that to me, right? And things that also have a purpose that are, they're doing something amazing for people's lives. I always love having that kind of client and that kind of, so I get really excited about that kind of stuff.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I was going to let you know. So talking to you about partnering and building trust, you may not realize this, but you have developed a wonderful tool set if you ever decide to become a spy, because those are exactly the kind of skills that I use when I'm in conflict zones. I'm partnering, I'm building trust. I'm trying to, if I'm going to be in a cross-cultural situation, I want to understand your goals and your decision-making process. And if I can do those things, now we can collaborate.
Absolutely.
So you absolutely have the tool set. If you ever need to go work in a conflict zone, you'd be fine by going out and running around, and they would love you.
Go undercover.
I would love to go undercover. Oh man, I actually love that whole spy thing. And I have done some really interesting things with exes where I could break into everything. Oh man, I was really good at that.
Dangerous.
Not proud moments of my youth. Okay.
Well, just stick with the partnering.
But still, but it was fun, being able to problem solve in that level. Is he cheating on me?
Oh my gosh.
No. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think hopefully we don't have to be in those positions too much to have to know how to do such intense conflict resolution, but we just don't know where we'll be at next 4 years. So I'll keep honing my skills.
Please do. Yeah. So I guess, switching gears for a little bit, what advice would you give to someone coming up in marketing or in communications? I think you talked a little bit about being, overcoming fear and just doing it. Is there any other words of wisdom that you would give to maybe your younger self?
Be multidisciplinary. I always have a hard time saying that word.
English be multidisciplinary.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Because don't just fall into one bucket. Try to learn them and do well in all of them. I'm not saying, be master of, what is it? Master of all.
Jack of all trades.
Master. But like that, because it's very competitive now. And to do really good strategy and to really help your clients, you really need to know how all of these things work and why they're important for them. Right. And for the programs they're trying to build, understand, social, understand influencer, understand, marketing, understand organic, paid, like
but
ad
beyond
buys,
understanding,
all of those things.
Be engaged in those platforms.
Thank you. Right? Be engaged in those platforms. Exactly, Sandra. Yep. Yeah. It's really important because I think that's what the marketers of tomorrow are all going to be able to do, because everything's going to be more automated.
Right.
So you're going to want to be able to just turn on your console, right? I mean, imagine like you've got and just be like, okay, what do we do today? Okay, let's switch this on. So, you're going to be more of a, I don't know, like a cashier register person. You know what I'm saying? Like you're just going to pass things through because it's all going to be so much more automated and just faster because data just is being compiled and processed more quickly, especially with AI. So you want to know and how to be able to communicate across all of these different channels and distribute messages through all these different channels. Right. So I look at it as like if you were a robot, right? But you're not going to be the robot because you still need a human touch. Right. So for communication, you still need that human touch, that human element. People aren't going to be desensitized, right? We're not. We still have hearts. We still feel.
You can't have robots do positioning work. Yeah.
No. They won't be. I don't know if they'll fully be able to. Will they be able to have like the fun sense of humor and come up with like the crazy ideas?
Well, that's the
I don't
thing,
know.
right? Yeah,
I don't know. Bots may be like cute cat, internet, but right.
I do think that we'll reach a point in the fairly near future where we can have a computer write copy for us, and we may have to oversee it.
Absolutely.
But there's an equation. Like if you go out and you read every Steinbeck book, every, whatever kind of author, emulate this style, and then I'm going to proof it, maybe make some editing choices. And the computer's like, I see what you're doing. I see your style, and it's going to do that work for you. And then you're going to be able to take it and plug it in and other computer. Now plug this in and all these different channels, and you're going to kind of navigate all that.
You're going to navigate all that.
Yeah. Yep. You'll be like a BART train operator.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So you're pushing the buttons, you're figuring it out. So, the market's just changing really quickly. And I think that's what we're also, people's fears are right now is instead of embracing it and trying to adjust to those changes, what they're trying to do is, push it away and pretend it's not going to happen, but it is, and it already has.
It already has happened.
Yeah. So the sooner you get on board, the more competitive edge you'll have.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was
on
fun.
that note, Vanessa,
yes,
this was a great conversation, great interview, so many amazing insights.
Yay.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, you really are fascinating.
Thank you. I love hearing that kind of feedback. Who doesn't?
You're so fascinating.
Bring it on.
Keep talking.
Talk about me. Rub my belly.
How do people find you on social? Where do we go?
People find me on social at Vanessa Camones on Twitter, Vanessa Camones on Instagram, Vanessa Camones on LinkedIn, Vanessa Camones on Pinterest, and just Vanessa Camones.
All right. Awesome.
It's just my name.
Right on.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.